Remember that critics have an old idea of movies. They don't evolve because it's their standard. They are hardest on comedy because they couldn't care less about it. You know? That person's right. Good movies that have been given low scores by Rotten Tomatoes because F Rotten Tomatoes. And I know what people are going to say. Rotten Tomatoes are not exactly critics. They just analyze film critics and then they make the scores from the film critics. I know, still, Rotten Tomatoes are still responsible. I watched Argylle the other day, and I'm not gonna lie, it's actually really spectacular. The cast is amazing, it has a great story, the color and set design feels nice, and also if you're into writers and spies, then this movie is for you. Well yeah, unfortunately, the Tomatoes didn't think so. It gave it a 35%. 3-5. And why am I not surprised? So I would give this around 88 to 95% if I worked in Rotten Tomatoes. Thankfully, I don't. Thankfully. And don't worry, there's not going to be spoilers, so I'm going to put it as briefly as I can. It kind of has a subversion of how spies are portrayed in certain movies, and I'm not talking about Austin Powers. I think this does it differently. There were a lot of twists and turns I did not expect, and no, I'm not talking about major shock factor. It's just like, oh, is that it? And there are themes about self-identity, which I wish they explore more of, but you know, it's still fun. And I like the fun way how they subvert fantasy versus reality and how they play around with it. It was really interesting. And not to mention Bryce Dallas Howard. She made this movie work, like honestly she did. Would I watch this again? Yes, when I have the time. Also, I am not sponsored, so if anyone wants to sponsor your boy, I'm just kidding. But seriously, I'm not sponsored.